Greg Peterson and Randy Sweeney, have been involved in a project to document the first 10 years of Stateline Speedway, 1956 to 1965. And in doing the research for that documentary film, we went out and interviewed a bunch of former participants, including Sammy LaMancuso. That was last October 2009. And during our interview with Sam, he told us that he had saved his last race car. We were stunned. Nobody saves their last race car. We knew Sam stopped racing in probably about the mid-70s, and just nobody saves a race car that long. Well, he saved a race car. Fast forward to December of last year. Greg and Randy and I get invited to Sammy's birthday party, which was held at Lake County Dodge. And well, one thing leads to another, and the next thing we know, Mike Latone from DNS Glass is involved. And he says, you know, we're going to restore Sammy's race car. And that's the beginning of the story, Jim. Mike Latone and Sammy's crew have rebuilt Sammy's 1972 Dodge Charger.
Morning, Russ. I feel so great, I just can't even describe it. And this is all like a dream to me. And I got to make a correction on this car being under wraps and covered up. It was not under wraps or covered. It was covered, but with junk. I mean, there was lumber on top of it, there's rain pipes on top of it. I mean, you name it, boxes of stuff all over that car. And when they just mentioned to me that they wanted to do this car, I says, guys, before you talk like that, it's in rough shape. I says, I've looked it over and it's bad. Don't worry about it, we'll handle it. So from there it did, and they did a beautiful job. The original car come from Twin Auto. It was a '68 Charger, and it wasn't too bad a shape either. And it came with a standard 4-speed with a 440, so I was lucky with that part. And it was $650, if you can believe that. And that's how we started with that. Then we retinned it in '72. I'll tell you how it started. You all know Tony Caprino, I'm sure, the mayor of Lakewood. He came to me one day, was in the 40s. He said, Bud Finelli is running a race car out at Leon Speedway. He said, let's go watch him. And from after that, it was all, I don't know if you want to call it uphill or downhill, but that's when around and around, and that's when the racing started. And that was in like 46, 47 in through there. And then we decided we're going to have a car too, and we bought a big old 35 Cadillac, Tony and I, and that's what we raced. Well, we started out at Pennyroyal in Leon, New York, and Skyline. There was a track in Warren at one time. Warren Speedway was behind the drive-in theater in Warren. That was it. That was the Dickie Ben. And then we raced at Wattsburg. We raced in Erie. I went to Canton, Ohio a couple times. Lancaster, New York. We went there for a NASCAR show at one time. That's about all I can think of. Oh, we went to Shippensville once. I don't know if anybody's ever even heard of it.
There was Arkwright too, also.
And there was Arkwright, and there was Johnny Speedway in Cuba. Yeah, I forgot that one too. Stateline. I had a Model A Ford 1931, and I bought that when I was 14, and I bought it in pieces, and I put it all back together, and I drove it. And don't I wish? Yeah, I save a lot of junk, and it's always the wrong junk. My wife reminds me of that too. Get rid of all the stuff that's worth money and keep all the junk. But I tell you, when we put this car together, I dug a lot of stuff out of them buildings, I'll tell you, to make this car running again. Yeah, they're a lot lighter, I can tell you that. I could probably make 3 of them cars that are running today out of mine, for what mine weighs, today the cars are mostly aluminum and fiberglass. Mine is cast iron and sheet metal, it's a lot of steel.
Boilerplate.
But everybody that has seen it said, you know, that's how a race car should look. And it is really a work of art. They did one beautiful job on it. But all the wins, you're going to have to give them to Bobby Snars and Squirt Johns and Ronnie Blackmore. They got the majority of the wins. I won some big races, but I wasn't the weekly winner like them guys were. Oh boy, that's a story that goes way back. That was in the 50s. We had a garage up on, excuse me, up on 2nd and Windsor with Chuck Nelbone. There was an old guy that used to come by there all the time. He was, he was a little bit simple. I don't know how I should say that. You know, his name was Harry, big, tall, skinny guy. And every time he'd come by, Chuck would ask him, Harry, how old are you? He'd go, 27, you know. And every time he'd go by, they'd ask him that. He'd go, 27. So that's how we wound up with the number 27, because I was involved with Chuck Nelbone at the time. Then the L came about when we went to Skyline one night, and I think it was Johnny McGinley showed up or somebody, and I think he was 27 also. So I had to put an L on my number, and that's how that came about. But anyway, if you guys would have known Chuck Nelbone, that story would have been a lot funnier. Yeah, when they do the premiere for the movie, we're going to be driving it from my house to the Jackson Center. The most money I made in one night when we won that 150 lapper in Erie, and that was, I don't know, 14 or 2,000 bucks, was it? Yeah, that was the biggest purse that I think I ever made. But as far as a yearly thing, I don't know. We never could. It always is, isn't it? Most of the time, when we always did this, any money the car made stayed with the car. Nobody ever took any money out of the car, and we always had money to operate with. We didn't have to go and mortgage our house, you know.
My dad and John's dad started in 1932, fixing cars and so forth. He had a little garage on Water Street, and that's where it started. 1932, they started fixing and selling cars and built a garage up on Buffalo Street and went from there. Sammy came along and started helping them work on cars and driving one of the cars for them.
There was 2 other Cusimanos involved here now. There was Pete, who was the master mechanic there, and then there was also Sam, who was the body shop manager. Then John was out in the shop with us, and he later went in the office. And Jim was the big kahuna there. So, but it started, you know, in a little garage on Water Street. But there was a new garage built on Water Street in the early '40s, the mid '40s, when the boys got out of the Army, right behind the fire station on Windsor Street. That was where the well, probably the 2nd or 3rd garage was. Then we went to Buffalo Street in '49. You know, they've been in it a long time.
To reiterate what Mike Latown said, this really isn't about the race car, or even about Sammy, the race car driver. What I've learned by hanging around these guys, this project is really about Sammy LaMancuso, the man, and how much he's respected and what high esteem he's held in by his friends and family members. Dr. John LaMancuso hasn't been mentioned yet, but he's another guy that just goes on and on about what an impact Sammy has had on his life. Judge LaMancuso will tell you the same story, and that's what this has all been about as far as I'm concerned. It's been about Sammy the man and his impact on the younger generation.
You guys have done this before.
A lot of kind words. You guys make me leave here crying.
Hey.
Yeah, boy.